Welcome to Stories That Stay, how stories of identity shape us. And we're very glad to have you here. This is a podcast where healing happens at the intersection of art, science, and storytelling.
Stories That Stay podcast is a project of Lion Story.
After breaking every norm possible for us, if there is one, how are you arriving today with us?
I'm arriving after a day of rehearsals, so I'm a little bothered by how much we have left to do in a short space of time. But I'm also dog tired. I want to lie down and watch some anime on Netflix, but I have to do some writing tonight. I'm in a mixed bag of emotion, but I'm present.
Love it. I'm grateful for all of it and your presence here. How do you feel about sharing your story today with us? Is this something that makes you nervous, something you're used to sharing, or does it bring you excitement?
I think I've shared aspects of my stories for quite some time, and there were times when the sharing felt performative because of how often I had told the story, and then it felt like I was being detached from myself because the words that I was using had become so cliche that I had to such down. But then I created a game with myself where I tried to figure out other ways to tell the truth. And because the truth is a multi-headed beast in which it isn't set in stone, and by that I mean the whole truth requires the points of view and opinions of everybody involved in the incident, right? I would try and tell my stories from the point of view of my parents or my sisters or my enemies or my frenemies or my friends, just to make this telling interesting to me, which is a roundabout way of saying when you ask the questions, I'm not sure which answer you're going to get.
I love that. I think it's the therapist in me. When I say I love that, when you share hard things, it's not that I love that you're sharing you're experiencing that, but I love your detail and your discernment and your distinction. I think being able to do that is very fruitful, and I feel like you're in the right place. We work with storytellers, and I think there's a whole economy industry around the art of it, but we hope to help it be more generative for you and for your sake and only your sake as a process. So thank you for joining us for this ride. And the researcher in us also would like to ask, just 1 to 10, if you had any level of stress related to sharing your story. Maybe it's because of what you just described.
Right now, stress is very low, maybe 2% or something.
Lovely.
Not 2%, 1 to
2.
10. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, because that would be slightly different. Thank you. And I'll pass it on to Dwight and our co-host to take us through the next part of our time.
And it was so grateful to be in space with you. For our listeners, Inua was in Philadelphia. His play, The Half-God of Rainfall, was here at a theater, the Wilma Theater. I guess that was in the fall through the winter.
Yeah.
And we got to be in conversation at that time and make a podcast in relation to that. And so this, in some ways, for me at least, feels like a continuation of some of those conversations that we had then. Knowing you already like to tell stories in different ways through different perspectives, we're not sure where we'll go. We'll be in this unknown together. I want to just ask you, Inua, what are some of the earliest memories of difference that you recall?
Wow. Let me see.
Race, gender, as you wish, but difference. Noting that you were different.
I think is probably when I went to primary school and found out that my twin sister and I were not going to be placed in the same class. And I threw an unholy tantrum in a hall on the floor, sobbing, expecting my twin sister to be beside me, sobbing. Instead, no, she was happy. She just walked away to the other classroom. And that's when I thought, oh my God, I'm only 10 minutes older than you. We were born on the same day. We shared the same room for the last, 3-4 years. I thought you were with me. I thought we were the same, but you're we're
Just
we're
walked away.
we're different. Yeah, literally, she was built different, and that's the moment I realized, whoa. So yeah, I think that was the first moment where something I assumed was the same was different. Everything else was just life, But there was something that I thought we were twinned in that, in our emotions, in our love for each other. But she just wanted to explore the world.
Now, how old were you?
I think I was about 4,
Okay.
something like that, 4 or 5, yeah.
And the message there for you, did it land when she was walking away? Is that the image you're seeing?
Yeah, but I expected her to be lying on the ground crying with me, demanding, no, give me my twin. Let's be in the
Yeah.
same room. But it wasn't her vibe. It was just, yeah.
Now, okay, when you reflect back on memories of, the earliest memories of difference that you recall, this one, if you could range, we work a lot with scales here, just so it can help inform us, because sometimes we say sad at a 2. We actually, but being sad at 10 is very different than being sad at a 2. So that
Yeah.
helps us a bit. Now, the general question would be, how distressful is this for you? If you could take yourself there, 1 to 10, 4-year-old, being separated
It
from your
was
twin sister.
easily a 20. My world was ending. You know what I'm saying? It was deeply distressful. In fact, every time I tell this story, I make a joke that this is when my abandonment issues started, where my twin sister just walked away from me. And there's definitely a sliver of truth in that. Definitely. It's just a joke that I tell. Definitely at the time I was completely devastated. I thought, no, how dare the world do this to me? And with you, no less, Oh, it
Uh,
was wild.
yeah, I think you described it as unholy tantrum. But there's a truth in a lot of jokes. So when you said, low-key where your abandonment issue starts, I mean, the name of the podcast is Stories That Stay, how stories shape
Mm,
us. Like, we work with thousands of people, and it doesn't matter what sense they've made of their life choices and how deep the trauma, some of their earliest memories. And for many of us, it's at 4, 5, 6. And not in a diagnostic way, but a curious way, right?
mm.
How does that story still remain? And giving you some help with that. So you said 20. It was as distressed on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 20.
Yeah, it was, I was my father was a Muslim, my mother was a Christian. We were sort of middle class Nigerian, sort of respectability politics
Mm.
when you're in public was a big thing. You have to
Mhm.
represent your family, you have to be, So for me to throw a tantrum because
Mhm.
my twin sister was walking, that was a big thing. So I was super depressed. I was super distressed as a kid. Yeah.
At 20. And I'm gonna ask you some questions just to really break that 20 into pieces that are
Mm,
maybe more tangible for you and us as the listeners. You're good at naming feelings. Or if you can name the feelings and also scale those feelings for us,
okay.
as you wish.
Okay, wow. Frustrated. If I stay within 1 to 10, frustrated was probably like a 7 or 8.
Okay.
Angry, definitely 10. Disappointed, maybe a 6. Trade, definitely like a 9 at least. Confused, another high, maybe 7 or so. Yeah. Afraid, definitely. Without my rib beside me, I was gonna fall down. So, yeah, 8, 9 at least. Yeah. So all of those things were wrapped in that.
I'll take a breath, and hopefully you can too. I'm
Mm,
gonna recap it for you. Frustrated, 7 to 8. Angry, about a 10. Disappointed, 6. Betrayed, 9. I believe you said confused was about 3.
yeah. No, I said the confused is probably high, maybe 5. I think I said
5.
something like that. Yeah.
5 feels good. And our last emotion,
I can't remember what I said. Afraid, afraid.
afraid.
Yeah, that was
Afraid.
pretty high as well. Yeah.
At a 9. Yeah, in our research and our work, we always tell people you want to pay attention to every level, but something 7 and above sometimes feels so insurmountable, and it
Mm,
does because our bodies are signaling that.
mm.
If you could take yourself either to that moment or even where you are now, did your body signal these emotions to you? Did you feel it anywhere? Could you locate it physically?
I guess somewhere in the center of my chest, I imagine. Yeah, probably around there. I also suffer from anxiety, so I think it's all pooling
Your
around that
chest.
center. Yeah.
For folks that are listening, you're rubbing like the core of your chest, right? Like right
Yeah.
in the middle. Can you describe the feeling? Is it fuzzy? Is it full? Is it sharp? Is it?
It is. It's just sort of numb and a little cold and it's sort of a little tickly but uncomfortable ticklish. And it feels heavy, like there's something sitting on it. Yeah. And like my chest, my shirt is sticking to it a bit. It's sticking to my chest. Yeah.
Is the feeling you feel now? Do you remember feeling it then, or is it with you now?
I think it's with me now.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think I just remember feeling angry and all of those things and throwing a tantrum and expecting the world to bend to my whims and to my wishes. Yeah.
Your needs. And I'm trying to imagine, if you can help me, what a tantrum looks like. What was that image? Did you feel your body? What's the setting? Maybe it's not
I
even
was,
related, honestly, but what is
no,
the image coming to you?
I was on the floor like a kid's tantrum in a shopping mall who can't get ice cream. I was on the floor pounding the floor, crying, saying, "No, where's my twin sister? We should be in the same class."
Mm.
Yeah. So full out the stereotypical kids tantrum kind of thing. Yeah.
The African in me is so proud of you, for old you, letting it all out.
Yeah.
But I know there was a lot of self-talk, messages we tell ourselves or has been told to us probably around this moment. You even said it, to publicly do that in a school setting. Maybe what is some of the messagings around that? Maybe, yeah, whatever's coming to you.
The sort of things that I wouldn't say to my nephews, but which you were
Hmm.
told then, boys don't cry. You have to toughen up. You have to be strong. I'm the only male child in my family. Being out there meant that I was representing. Um, my father, I have the exact same name as in Inua Ellams. And, just not to cause a scene, those sort of various typical things, but also my people, the Hausas, are the most stoic of Nigerians. So there's this just general vibe. The Hausas are the chillest and the most put together, the most regal. Yeah. There's a story my father told me of a Hausa man who got bitten by a snake in his finger. And rather
Mm.
than crying, he just went up to the nearest tree, lay his finger on it, and hacked it off with a machete because he knew the venom would kill him. But
Yeah.
it wasn't even a fear thing. He had just made the calculation and cool as
Hmm.
hell. Just so
Uh-huh.
that is who Hausa people. They're just very. So
Hmm.
for me to have thrown a tantrum like that, yeah, it was a no.
Which there's a lot of messaging, and your reflected messaging associated with religion, culture, your tribe, all of it. Can you visualize a character that's spoken to you that said this to you either before or after your tantrum?
No, I can't see I can't see anyone embodied telling me all of this. I
Mm.
think it was always around us from my uncles,
Hmm.
from my father, from my mother. None of it was said with malice,
Hmm.
it wasn't said in a threatening sort of way. It was just the culture in which we grew up or anything. Yeah.
It was the water,
Yeah.
not necessarily the sharks, is sometimes how I say is in the water.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
I'm curious about, like, you said you felt betrayed, but the betrayal was because of your sister?
Yeah. I think it's because I expected her to be my ride or die, to stand beside me and we try and beat the world down together and
Mhm,
force it to our wills. So that was
mhm.
the betrayal. Yeah.
And did anyone react to you witnessing this tantrum?
Think, if I remember correctly, I think there were some teachers who were laughing. There were
Mhm.
some, I think, who thought it was adorable. Of course, he wants to be beside his twin sister. Why are we even doing this? And there were some who just watched the thing unfold. It was a spectacle. Yeah, I think it was a mixture of all of those things. Yeah.
But there was no other character in this experience for you, a
I
prominent one,
can't,
other than, yeah, your sister.
I can't really see, and it's such a long time ago. It was over, you know, I'm 40 now. It happened when I was 4 or 5, so it took about 35 years. I can't really remember. So there's this because I've left, firstly, I moved from Jos, the north of Nigeria, to Lagos in the southern regions of Nigeria, and then moved from Lagos to London, and then moved from London to Ireland, and then moved from Ireland to London. I've just had to say bye to so many groups of people and
Hmm.
so many ways of being and the people with whom I created memory with. So there are a
Mm.
lot of things that I've forgotten or memories that have been overwritten or
Hmm.
superseded by new ones. So sometimes it's hard for me to remember things in as
Yeah.
clear details. And then randomly, I'll meet an old friend who's telling me stories about me when I was 12 years old because the world didn't change for them. I'm the one who left everything else, so they have a
Hmm.
sharper memory of my youth than I do. So with regards to the 4 years old, I remember the incidents, but
Hmm.
a lot of the detail is just blurred. When I close my eyes, I just see
Yeah.
feet, people standing because I was on the ground. I see
Hmm.
sunlight pouring into the room. I see my sister, a small back, walking off into the distance, probably holding a teacher's hand who was leading her off to her classroom. And yeah, just looking up at some of the adults. So just, all of those things.
You know, our relationship with memory, I've been giving myself a lot of grace. Part of it's like I'm getting older. Maybe this is the privilege that I'm not so close to my memories. Or
Mm-hmm.
my life is so full. It's hard to, evoke every detail, but also how we understand details, right? So if you're saying something has caused you stress at a 20, disappointment, betrayal is such a high acute number. Quite literally, our bodies, our everything changes. Our ability to sense, our eyesight, our hearing changes. Even when folks make decisions, are forced to make decisions quickly in workplaces like police officers or medical professionals, there's ways in which that adrenaline, you will, or the parasympathetic nervous system will have you focus in.
Mm,
And then at times where we could be triggered by other senses like smell, sound, very differently. Personally, even in this work, our relationship with the truth. We do this work, maybe we're all our storytellers, Dr. Stevenson notably, or even our trainers, they'll tell the same story or will prompt it to tell the same story about a memory 10, 20, 30 times. And every single time it is different.
mm,
Every single time. So what then is the truth? For us, the truth is the here and now, right?
mm,
Can we be proud of the here and now, your ability to articulate and see and recall what you have thus far, and let that be the full truth and help it emerge other truths, if you will, right? Because our
yeah.
body is this thing where if we can communicate with it, it will keep unlocking too, you know? Um, and the virtue of just having witnesses as well throughout your stories. Maybe not someone that could follow you along all the memories and all the goodbyes and all the movement, but someone that can recognize patterns in you, maybe give it back to you, reframe it for you. Just respect how we remember things, even the things we don't remember. Like I'm letting my body speak to me more and more without
Mm,
judgment. But I hear you. Sometimes I'm like, I've lived a full life. I don't think like people are living us full and noticing as much. Why didn't I talk about this? Being good listeners is sometimes painful because we notice how poor listeners there are in this world. Like there are a lot of
yeah.
people not noticing. So, well, all we ever ask people to do is just notice. We just want to help people notice things more at
Mm,
different times. And your ability, like you shared the memory, already felt like some type of rainbow, but now it feels like a kaleidoscope, like details, the levels,
mm,
and even self-talk. You shared a lot, but I wonder, like, did it mean or sound different in your mother tongue? If you're, in a language you grew up hearing. Also, I hear self-talk. I don't know, Dwight, if you hear it. Like sometimes for us, it's like sayings we hear in the words is like there's if I could give a hashtag to this story, there's some hashtag around goodbyes and the violence of goodbyes.
mm.
Yeah. So I guess all of that to say is to give you grace for what we remember and what we don't remember and trusting whatever comes out our mouths.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if being a poet helps or hinders processing this. And some of it is rooted to the philosophy of poetry that you subscribed to. There are some who think poetry should just be an unfettered outpouring. It should be a waterfall. Just splash that shit, you're good. And then there are other schools of poetry which think poetry is actually about the refinement of emotion. Um,
Mm.
and you finding a containment to hold all of it and then communicate it. And then writing and editing and writing a poem somehow hones the emotion. And I don't know if that is sometimes a repetitive emotional injury you're doing to yourself by going over it over or, over and over again, or if you are, it's closer to bloodletting. You're letting it out. And each time you go over it, you're controlling it in order to
Yeah.
commodify it and
Yeah.
sell it, because unfortunately we do live in a capitalist world, and each poem is a product that can be sold in a book, and then it gets really complicated. And I wonder if the best thing I should do is not write at all, or if I
Mhm.
should write. And then I wonder about the privilege I have to even be aware that there are things I can do with emotion. And I say that in comparison to men who are just taught to deny their emotion, let alone
Mhm.
quantify it and dissect it and then share it and commodify, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm resonating because I call myself reluctant creative. This is not my pathway at all, at all. I feel like I purge it reluctantly for real, is that I don't even have a choice. But something I hear and recognize in your story, maybe even in mine a bit, you don't have a choice. If you were to never write again, I don't think that would inhibit your poetry in any shape or form. It spews out of you, most likely. That's why I like to do this work, is also everyone's a creative, everyone's a creator. It's the only way we can really survive. Some of us, are bound to it. It's a greater means than others. We're like the seers of the world. But it is a sweet suffering
Mhm.
to notice, to live fully, all in one place. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm so glad that others like you and Dwight exist through the sweet suffering. Um, yeah, because then I think it's sad, and especially in this time and space in this world, when people don't notice. I think that's the greatest crime right now. People are not willing or able to, maybe in some ways, they're so disassociated, and
Yeah.
feel like they don't have options to interpret it. But to be able to notice, consume, and maybe even produce something. I feel like it's the closest thing I can get to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I worry about like how folks like you and Dwight and us care for ourselves. Cause it's like, dang, the world needs us now more than ever, but what the hell is going on here? Like, how do we
Yeah.
sustain ourselves? It's really, yeah, it's a conundrum. Dwight,
Yeah,
I
and
know.
and does the world want what we want to offer? Do they have the attention span to hold it, to receive it, to engage with it, and then see what comes out? It's
Yeah.
yeah, as a playwright, as a poet, these are all questions that I ask myself about how to engage with contemporary audiences in a world where poetry is competing with theater, is competing with stories and reels and
Yeah.
film. And then we have growing generations of young people who are politically and socially apathetic because there isn't space for them to engage with their emotions and connect it to things, because everything new is just a swipe away. It's just, my fear is we are creating a future where we are completely disconnected from the natural world,
Mm,
from the feeling world, and
mm-hmm.
the sensorial world.
Yeah.
Well, could you just, if you had to scale that fear, Inua, scale from 1 to 10, where would you put it?
If I dwell in it, it's big for me. It's easily a 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the reason
Mhm.
why it isn't a 10 is because I I think because I'm still creating work and I believe in my work, and I
Mm,
think my work is the emotional bridge with these audiences, because I'm still focused on the work,
mm-hmm.
I assume that it will be successful because I need that to keep creating.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But if I zoom out and look at what is more likely to happen, I think I will ultimately fail. And I say so because I don't control social media, right? I have no power to just turn an off switch on Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
TikTok
Mm.
and ask the world to sit with your emotions and the sheet of paper and doodle or draw and to sink deeper. Because if we can't do that, then everything we're doing, even these podcasts, even these conversations, if people can't sit and listen to them, we're throwing a coin into a bottomless well. Right.
It's getting, for our listeners, it's going to get really meta, because there's some heat here that we want to just stay with. And as we just connect this with this powerful story you told, this first experience of difference, being in touch with the emotions as you have been in this podcast, there's something,
for me, the connection is clear.
Yeah. Right. Before our audience, I know. I'm just like,
and just to connect them in the same way I felt like the world had pulled me away from my twin sister and I'd been abandoned by her. I feel like the world is pulling us away from each other, and we are being abandoned by each other because of it. It feels like there's nothing we can do to stop it, that their force is too great or too complicated. Or we
have a tantrum.
Yeah.
What would a tantrum for us look like now, legitimately?
Yeah.
What would,
and
what
the
would throwing a tantrum?
about, right. And the tantrum being about, well, you said fear at like at a 10. Does it live in that same heart space that your earlier feelings live in, or do you feel that fear of what you look out and see in our current culture in a different way? Does it live somewhere different?
I think I intellectualize it.
So maybe in the head more?
Yeah, it sits a little bit above the fear, but once the intellect goes and it goes into the heart, then it's bottomless. The fear is overwhelming because it affects then everything that I do. I'm an artist. Inbuilt in that is the assumption of emotional connection. If I then assume that there can never be an emotional connection, then there's no point working. I might as well just sit in a room and do nothing. So it's huge for me.
Right.
Yeah. It is.
It's huge for me. And I say this when I know that I don't live in a country like in America, which has a huge Black population, where it is possible then to assume that there will be an audience for my work. Here in the UK, the Black population is 3%. If I leave and go to Europe, which is my next door neighbor, which is the closest other market for my work, it's even smaller. So if I can't connect with my audiences here because they only put on my work if they think Black people will buy it, and then because they don't believe in Black audiences, then they don't. If they won't put on my work, then I'm screwed.
Well, brother, can I make some observations? There's extremes in your language, right? There's nothing I could do, or it's a bottomless pit. And that's also another just observation, right? Yeah. And I want to take us back to the memory in a way, because I want to ask this very poignant question. If you were to go back to that age of 4, discovering your twin sister is moving classes, you'll no longer be with her, right? In this space, you're having this tantrum. You can go back to maybe moments during that experience. Would you have done it differently? If you could go back in time now, was there anything you would change? Would you keep it the same? And you could change how you behave. You can add characters to the scene if you want, but reacting to that moment, if you got to redo, would you redo it in any different way?
And maybe the invitation, Inua, is because you want to, and we often do this, we want to intellectualize it as much as you can in your response, be down in your heart space with what comes. And it might take a few breaths, knowing that the fear was living up here 8 and 9, and when it dropped down, it feels bottomless, right? What would some breaths into a response that come from the heart place for 4-year-old Inua be? Not up here, not in the brain. Yeah.
Maybe touch your heart or your shirt, like you said.
I'm going to walk you through the thoughts that I had, which is why I was unable to arrive at any sort of clear answer. I think that traumatic incident prepared me for the journeys that I had to take with my family to become an immigrant, to become disabled, a displaced person, and to live in a world where nothing is uncertain and it can always be ripped away from me. And I think I've been able to survive because of my traumas. So the answer to if I would change anything would be, I would only repair the image if I knew that I wouldn't have been forced to leave the country therefore Nigeria could have remained my cocoon, and I would have been safe there, and I would not have experienced what it meant to be a globally displaced person. I would not have experienced Islamophobia. I would not have experienced migration trauma. I was on holiday with my girlfriend last year when in the UK there were riots across the country where they were burning hotels with immigrants in. I've stayed in a hotel as an immigrant when I didn't know where to live. So I was triggered and I had to write something to share it. Though I was on holiday with my girlfriend, I knew what it meant to be in that space, to suddenly be without a comfort zone, to look out of the window and people are literally standing outside with torches trying to burn the building you're in. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the memory prepared me for this. It's become complex and it's bigger, but something about not being able to trust the world, even the people you loved, because the world might tear them away, sort of made me able to carry on doing this work and writing stories about immigrants and migrants and there are plays I've been writing about displaced people. I've been doing this work for 7 years, trying to get this play on. And all that's happened is the world has become more unsafe for immigrants, right? So one of the reasons I can still do this work is because of those memories like that. So would I take away my trauma? And the answer to that is, if taking it away would make me a less emotionally sturdy person, then absolutely not, because I need to be here now. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer would be no. But if I were to stay in Nigeria, and then I would take it away, because I'd be in a world where everyone looks and sounds and talks like me. Ignorance would be the bliss that I have missed since leaving.
I know I need a breath. So this is a beautiful time for our listeners to also take another one of those box breaths, for our guests, Inua, for Shamm, all the things that came up for you. We know this happens in our work with stories. Once people start to tell their stories, we feel our connection to our own stories. It gives us courage, it gives us insight, but it also gives us the hardships, the tragedies, along with the triumphs of our own stories. So that might be happening for our listeners. It's happening in our space now. And so, as is our custom, we're going to take a breath in, hold, breath out. Let's do that one more time. Breath in, hold, breath out. And hold. And Inua, your generosity with your story and your experience, and even the insight to know that the redo, right? I wouldn't do it differently, knowing how it prepared me for the life I'm living today. And if there was any shift I would make, it would be to be there and to be still with family and in culture and language in a particular way that shielded me from what is my reality in so many ways. Just that tension we talk a lot about in our work of what it means to really come to new understanding, our new depths of ourselves, our stories, that there will be tension. There might even be more that we're asked to sit with and hold that wasn't there before, or that we haven't gotten the chance to presence and be with. And we know in our research and through Dr. Stevenson's work, even the ability to sit with and to be with and to name our experience of our stories, the feelings that come up, the ways they live in our bodies, any images, self-talk come to mind. You really modeled this entire time beautifully. It's practice. As we move towards a close, I want to ask you if you could give we started with your first story, right, of difference. If you could give that story a title, or, it's the headline of the Inua Times, right? The newspaper that comes out.
The Sunday edition.
Right, Sunday edition, right? You know, so it's the extensive version. People got time to read it all.
Right.
You know, what would the title of this first experience of difference be?
I was thinking the first edge, yeah, or the first cliff face or something, just to hint at the drop of emotion coming, the world sort of
Mm.
just being pulled from under you. So maybe the first edge, something like that. Yeah.
The first edge. You started out by saying you had sort of a 1 or a 2 stress level in sharing stories.
Yeah.
Thinking about here at the end of your story share with us, we know these stories continue to grow and evolve and get new shape and color. But if you could just on a scale from 1 to 10 after sharing your story, where are you at on the
I think
stress
it's
level?
gone up a bit. I think it's
Sorry.
We hear stories all the time. As Shamm said, we've done this with thousands of people. And sometimes people leave our sessions and are like, actually, I got more feelings. I got to call somebody who was there. Or I got to call to see if I'm remembering it right. Or I got to call and be like, hey, remember when that happened? You know?
Or
And
call and curse someone out. Or call and
you know,
apologize. Yeah.
even that process of what we do with our stories now, right? Because that story has shifted. I imagine you've told it a lot. You said you had a joke around it, right? It's where my early attachments start, right? But I imagine there's new edges even to that story that you're feeling now than you did at the beginning. And so, right, Shamm said, you know, we got a little disclaimer. We don't promise the stress about the story will go down, but we do
More
know
skilled.
that. Yes, more skilled, and the more in touch with it we can be, we know there's healing on the other side. We know there's, you know, in knowing more of who we are, you know, who we want to become,
Who we've always been, it seems, you know.
who we've always been, and now there's
Always.
safety to presence the who I've always been in a different kind of way. Maybe it wasn't a space to really bring yourself in that way fully, or you know, whatever it is. We're grateful that you brought what you brought with us, and know, and we'll do this in the follow-up email too. Know you can always come back to us if there's more ways we can be with you in your story, or more. We're here for you, good brother. And you know, there's so many folks, twins, family, community, girlfriend, you know, who also want to be in that story with you as you continue to just be with it, be with that first edge.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much for asking and making space for all of that. I haven't thought about it so in-depthly. So thanks for your certain questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for the shared space. Yeah, the power of our imagination in creating, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's just sitting and noticing your body. So thank you for doing that. Deeply appreciate it.
But maybe we can all just take a closing breath in. Breath in and out. And an invitation to keep drinking water, hydrating, nourishing, whatever, as you turn away from this computer. Everybody. Take care of yourself and take us with you. Take one another with you into your days.
Definitely.
Take you all
Thank
with
you,
me
guys.
today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Shamm.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, so
Inua,
much.
thank you so much for that. That was so, so generous and so loving.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you again, Inua, for your courageous storytelling. So moving, so insightful, so tender, heartbreaking, heart-opening. And for our listeners, we want to close out with one more breath together. So wherever you are, we just want to invite you to inhale and exhale. This work got emotional. It is emotional. And in many ways for us, that's our hope and goal, that we get to feel into these emotions in a collective way, in a thoughtful way, in a strategic way, and use the data of our emotions to craft our next stories. Thank you so much for tuning in to Stories That Stay, How Stories of Identity Shape Us. This podcast is a project of Lion Story. To learn more about Lion Story and our work, visit lionstory.org. This episode was produced and edited by Peterson Toscano. Music during our mindful moment comes from Dwight Dunston, yours truly. Music during our mindful moment comes from me, Dwight Dunston, yours truly. Other music comes from epidemicsound.com. For our listeners, Know that we are here to help you build the real courage, practical language, and skills to navigate discomfort with clarity and compassion, starting with yourself. If you found value in today's episode, please consider leaving a review, subscribing, or sharing this with someone who needs it. Your support helps us grow our healing community with practical learning resources and training opportunities for individuals and communities that need these tools and skills. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep telling your story. And remember, you are your most important listener.